everybody. Thank you for joining us. Our session this hour is diving deeper into Google Classroom for the secondary level. And we are welcomed with our wonderful host, who I will let introduce herself. So again, thank you all for coming. Any questions or comments that you have, please go ahead and put that in the chat, and we will do our best to respond to you throughout the entire presentation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Balog. I am the DIS over at Jackson. The last 2 years I was at Warren, and I'm excited to talk to you about Google Classroom. I know there's a lot of questions, a lot of problems, and just like fine-tuning your classroom. And so today I hope we tackle a lot of those issues and problems. Okay, so here is a list of some of the items that we're going to be talking about today. I want you to know that this presentation will be in the Canvas classroom. It's not currently there because I was making some additional things as the day went on today, but it will be there after the presentation, as well as a recording of this video. And we are recording this presentation for you. And my understanding is it takes about 24 hours or so to get into the Canvas classroom. Okay, so let's get started. So one of the things I'd like everybody to do is just open up a Google Classroom on another tab, so that as we go through the presentation today, you can look in your own classroom, look for these settings, try it out. It will be helpful to apply what you're learning right as we go through the presentation. So first step in getting into Google Classroom is you open your screen and you have all of these classes. They're all over the place. So you can organize these classrooms by sliding, dragging, dropping. I've been coaching, working to coach students to put them in order from the first part of their day through the end. You can also archive your classrooms. So the 3 dots on each square allow you to either unenroll from a class that somebody has put you in, or it will archive old classes. And now it does not get rid of the content that you had placed in those classrooms, and you can pull from those classrooms after they're archived. But it will free up your Google Classroom screen. So many classes. After all these years of teaching with Google Classroom, you'll have lots of them, and you want to clean that up. And I'm going to just run this screen back here again. If you look on each of the classes, you can see right here, there is a place for the file, the Google Drive files that are associated with that class. So all the assignments that you created, all the work the students did. If you want to access your students' work quickly, you can just click that button to get to those files. Also, this right here takes you straight to the gradebook for this specific classroom. So those are some quick things right on your front page for you to organize, get to places quickly. You can quickly click into the assignments as well that are coming up new. So I'm seeing a question about, can I align the courses in order of the class day? You can drag and drop those classrooms however it works best for you, however your brain works. That's what's amazing about that front page, is it is up to you, and it will stay that way. Okay. Now, we're going to spend some time on settings, because this is the fine-tuning that will make your day happier and your life easier. If you're getting bombarded with emails or kids are popping into your classroom that don't belong, this is the part of the day that we're going to start looking at those settings. So
real quick, okay. I'm so sorry. We had a question about the difference between archiving and deleting. That before we move on, could we just kind of cover that real quick?
Okay, so if you are if you're the teacher in a classroom, it's going to ask you to archive. One of the things that you should remember is, or one of the things you should think about as you archive is, sorry about that, it is making sure that you've returned work to students before you archive. If you still own those assignments, because when a student turns something in, you as the teacher now own that document. The student cannot change anything on it. You want to make sure you've returned all the work so that those students now own their document again. Deleting a class or unenrolling, it's really not deleting. I don't think there's an option for deleting. It's unenrolling, is taking yourself out of a classroom that you were the student in. And again, you will not lose your work that you've completed. It's just taking you out of there.
Right. When you go to your archive, I'm just gonna jump in. When you go to your archive classes, you can completely delete a Google Classroom that you made, delete forever, but then that erases everything. So you can't reuse posts or anything like that. So I would just keep them in my archive. I wouldn't delete them. That way you can always pull from them.
Okay. Thank you, Tara. Okay. So I'm going to move on to notifications. So if you click the 3 bars on the left-hand side, you'll open notifications. Oops. Yeah, I'm sorry. You'll open notifications for all of your classrooms. So you can open the notifications for comments. So like in the classrooms, do you want to get notified every time there's a comment on your post, somebody mentions you, etc.? You can turn these on and off. Actually, the top one right here allows you just to turn everything off. If you just need a break, just turn it off and then turn it back. Don't forget to turn it back on. This section right here allows you to control classes that you are the student in so that you can get notifications and reminders. The bottom section controls classes that you teach and whether you'll get information about late submissions, resubmissions, invitations to co-teach, and when you've scheduled a post or whether it's failed. At the very bottom, when you scroll down, you'll see it says class notifications, and there's just an arrow on the right-hand side, and it's kind of hidden, but you can go in and individually turn on or off notifications for specific classes. So like say you want notifications for your first class or your second class, but you don't want notifications for your third class. And as you can see, there's the arrow. You can turn these on or off. This allows specific classrooms to get notifications or not. You may want class comments in, say, the 6 advisory class, but not for the grade 8 advisory class. Each teacher controls their own notifications. So, Daniel, that's a great question. So you can't control the notifications for all the teachers. Everybody has to set their own individual settings. And students have these same settings. They're not teachers in classrooms, but they do control what they get notifications on and what they don't. We'll be getting to the chat features here as we go along. Okay. And now, if you take a minute and go into one of your classes, you're going to see some class-specific settings. You can adjust how students get to your classroom. You can either give them the link and copy it right here and send that to your students. You can give them the code. You can enable and disable the code. I'm going to go pull this video back a little bit. I need to get, sorry, I've got a little thing blocking my ability to adjust the video. I'm just going to let it run through and play again. But that top right here, you can enable or disable the class or students to join your classroom through a class code. So if you have all your students in your class and you don't want anybody else to come in, you can disable the code so that no one else can join. What is the code? Great. So every class in a Google Classroom has a class code. Let me just take you to my Google Classroom, and I'm going to, hold on a second. I'm going to switch screens right here. So every classroom has a class code. Right here is your class code for your specific class. You can find it here. You can make it larger. You can copy the link. You can also find it here at this settings wheel right here, where we are. Down here where I was, general settings. Your class code can be displayed. It's written right here. You can display it larger again and copy it. And right here, you can enable, disable, or reset your code. Again, right here is a copy of a link if you want to send the link to your students to invite them. Moving on down to your stream, students can, this is where you're going to control how students interact in your class, what permissions they have. So in your stream to your classroom, and I'm just going to go back and show you where your stream is. Your stream I like to think about as a Facebook feed. It will show in real time the newest item that comes into your class that you post on the stream. You can control whether students can comment, whether there's other notifications in your stream, whether it's going to show every single piece of classwork you post, or whether you control everything. And you do that in this settings section right here. Scroll down, go to your stream. Right here, you can choose. Students can post and comment. I would not suggest that. You can post, students can only comment, or only students can post or comment. And here's the thing, right now, as we teach our students digital citizenship, you might want to start off with only teachers can post. If your students cannot handle the comment section, you can turn it off. Once you have built up rapport with your students and they know the expectations in your classroom and how to communicate, you can go ahead and turn that on, allowing students to comment to things that you post in your stream. And right now, everybody's separated. So community building is huge, and your stream is one of those places that you can build community. Actually, at Jackson here, we've decided that the stream is one of our community building places. It's where the teacher is going to control what's there. Students aren't allowed to make their own posts there. We're putting community building and like information in the stream. The second section where it says classwork on the stream, this is how you decide what shows up on your stream. If your stream is cluttered with every single assignment that you post, every time you delete something, anything, this is where you can change what shows up. And I encourage you to just hide the notifications. If you hide the notifications, it will only show specific things that you intentionally post on your stream. Does that make sense to everybody? The stream is your Facebook feed for your classroom. You want to control what's there. You have full control if you hide notifications and set it so that only the teacher can post or comment. As your students build up their digital citizenship skills, you can change it to allow the students to comment, but not post. They'll just be able to comment on things you put there. And then if eventually your class is doing amazing, you can open that up more. Those features are there for you. So there's a question about posting on the feed, so I'm just going to quickly show you where to post on your feed. So in class, on your stream right here, you can type anything. You can add from your drive, from a link, a file, or a YouTube video. You can determine which classes. You can post to multiple classes the same announcement at the same time by choosing 4 and selecting the classes you want this to go to. And then I don't have any students in this classroom, but right here you'd be even able to choose which students see those stream comments. So say you have some students that are specifically in speech and you want to make sure that just they see an announcement to remind them that that their speech teacher is going to meet with them during a certain time. You can post that right here and make it specific. You can schedule the post right here or save it as a draft.
Can I jump in real quick? We have a couple questions that are about clarification for notifications.
Okay.
We're a little bit confused about what the student notifications are versus the teacher notifications. So if you turn off yours, does that affect a student's notifications? And then also they were wondering about what would happen if a student turns off their own notifications.
Okay, good thinking. So you do not have control over the notifications your students receive. Just like you are a student in people's classrooms, you can control what you see and what you don't. Your students also control what they see. So again, this is a coaching piece of teaching them how to use those notifications. Students, you don't have to tell it. Most students don't realize they're there, but if for some reason they're not getting assignments or posting assignments, you might want to encourage them to double check those and make sure they're turned on. It will send comments, or it will send notifications to their email. Matter of fact, when a student makes a comment, if you have the feature on where the comments are coming to your email, you can answer them directly from your email. They will show up in both places, your email and your classroom. Is that helpful?
Yes, I think so. Thank you so much. And if it was not an answer that you guys were looking for, or it didn't fully answer, please just write it in the chat.
Yep.
And again, I just like to remind all of you that please use the chat for only comments that are related to this session. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So going back here, I just want to make sure I got every piece of this settings wheel. Okay, so I want to now the stream. Let's see. So we've talked about the general settings of your classroom. We've talked about the stream and how to unclutter it. Now I'm going to show you the Guardian summaries and your Google Meet controls. So I'm going to go over here back to my classroom. I'm going to open up this wheel over on the right-hand side. This wheel on the right-hand side is really specifically for your class. This one over here on the left down here is for your whole Google Classroom, the entire place for all of your classes. Okay, so opening my settings. There we go, going down. All right, so here we are at the bottom of our class settings. So this Guardian summaries right here is a place with a feature that you can turn on or off. This will allow if students or this will allow parents to join in your classroom, but not in the way your students do. What happens when they join, it will give them summaries of what's happening in your classroom. They cannot see students, they cannot see everything, they just get summaries. And if you click there, it'll show you an example of what that looks like. This setting right here about show deleted items, it will show you things that you've deleted from your classroom. You can turn that on or off. So like say you accidentally delete something, that'll allow you to see what was deleted. So let's go to that Guardians. If you have parents who have joined your classroom using your class code, you need to delete them as students and then invite them as guardians. Parents should not be in your classroom. Because of the way Google's people is set up, you can see every student in the class, and that is violating HIPAA laws. So it's important that if you have a parent in your classroom, you delete them. And so this is one of those things where your class code becomes very important. This class code up here, it's a password into your classroom. Anybody can share it. and be invited into the classroom with that code. So if you're finding that people are joining your classroom that should not be there, you can change that class code again up here. By resetting it, you can also disable the code. Now, resetting it is not going to kick people out of your classroom. It's just going to reset it so that you can give it to people you want to come in. It's just like changing your password. You've changed your password so the people that are there are good, but the people that are trying to get in cannot get in.
Yes, and I just want to say that again, just like Katie had said, you need to invite them as guardians, and they will receive an email summary that they can set up on their own terms. You have no control of how they set that up. You just invite them to receive them. And then that is very specific to just their student. The other thing is that make sure that your parents understand this is in the Guardian Guide to Google Classroom, what is on our e-learning page on the district website. But parents should not be communicating using their student's account with you. They should be emailing if they have a question to talk with you about or ask you through their own personal emails, because anything that goes on is recorded under that student's account. So just remind them of that even though they may be helping their student out, that they need to separately email you.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, so let's see, if you disable the code, can students who are already invited to the class still get in if they haven't joined already? That's a very good question. I believe if you invited them directly, they should be able to get in no matter how, because as long as they're not trying to use an old code. But if you have inserted their email under people, let me go to people. So right now I currently have, I have somebody who I've invited, who's myself. I've invited myself into this classroom, but I personally have not yet joined it. So you can see it's gray because I have not accepted the class. But the way I entered and invited myself to this classroom was by clicking the plus under student. It's really, let me just go back there. There's teachers up here. You can invite teachers to be a part of your classroom. I believe administrators are supposed to be invited to your classrooms. You can invite a co-teacher in your classroom, say somebody you're sharing assignments with. Just let them know they might want to turn off some notifications. But below is where you add students. So students, you can type in their email. You can copy and paste your full classroom list right in here. If you have all your student emails, you can type their name in.
Yeah. No, you will not be able to export a list of just the student emails from PowerSchool. So you can use Google Sheets and merge them together, but you will have to put in your student's name, and then it may require that you also write their ID number. So if it's somebody that you have not emailed, it may not recognize it by last name. It just depends. You'll have to try both ways.
Yeah, definitely check the names, because if you're just typing in a name, sometimes there's more than one student with the same name.
Yes.
But that's why it's actually easier a lot of times using their email.
Yes. And there's a couple questions just before I move on, because they seem to be a lot about this subject. Someone had said, can you, what happens if a parent is on the classroom with a student? Do you want to answer that, or?
So tell me what you mean by that. When a parent is on with the student?
So if the parent enters the classroom with the student, do we have the right to dismiss them? So what I would say is that if a parent is sitting with their student and working, they are helping that student out. But if a student has joined the class, or sorry, the parent has joined the classroom as a student, please remove them right away. Again, they can have email guardian summaries. They do not need to be a student in your classroom. And there is another question about viewing the list. There is no way in Google Classroom to not see that list of people. So Correct. There are some teachers who have to be very careful with privacy laws and HIPAA and other things. That cannot be disabled. I do know that there are other learning management systems such as Canvas where that can be hidden, but in Google Classroom, no, everyone will see who is on there. So just be cautious of that. And then someone had said also with random students or people coming into Google Meets, or Google Classroom. So Katie, if you want to kind of go over again, maybe like some of those strategies of regenerating the code or disabling, regenerating the Meet link and then disabling the code.
Okay, so in order to regenerate your Meet link, you're going to go to your settings. You're going to come to general settings. Right here it says manage invite codes. There's a drop down right here. Disable or reset your code. Okay. That will regenerate here, and I'll just regenerate my code right here. I'll reset it. If you notice right here, the letters and numbers have changed. Also, the link changed. Okay, was there another piece of that, Sarah?
Quick, just so you guys know, again, a parent can help their student. A parent can sit next to their student and help them. The issue is when a student is, or when a teacher, or oh my gosh, when a parent is the actual student on there, we don't need them. They cannot be communicating and posting and putting class comments on there. Viewing, right? You yourself are helping the child. That's your student's work. It's not the same. It's that kind of engagement. So just remove them as a student. You know, if it happened, it's okay, right? Just going forward, just remove them and don't let them come back on, and tell them that they have the right to work with their student, but they need to sign up for the guardian summaries.
Correct.
And you can change that code, and the students who are already enrolled, nothing will happen.
Yeah, nothing changes.
If you change the code, nothing happens. They're still in your class, and they're right there.
Yep, it will not disable them from being a part of your classroom.
No.
Well, a question that came to me today was, can I force a student to join my class? And the answer to that is no. Sadly, you cannot force a student to join your class. You can't. What happens a lot of the times is students, you'll put your student's email address in. It'll send them an email notification that will ask them to join. They can click that, or they can go to Classroom and join there. But if they click decline, it goes away. Now their name stays on your list, but they can no longer access that. And at that point, you can reach out to them, give them the code, have them join by the code. And then if you need to reset your code because you don't want anybody else in, or disable it so that nobody else can join, you can do that as well.
We're secondary. So let's be honest, some of these kids just
purposely. And sometimes they'll leave the class too. Yes. You'll find that students leave the class and they just because they'll use it as an excuse. And one of the things I find is there's no excuses for not getting stuff done. If they delete an assignment, repost it to them. You can repost it specifically to them.
And you can resend the invitation. You just click on the invite button again and just resend it to them. If they missed it, I mean, some students, it's so overwhelming, right? And they're not used to maybe Gmail. Maybe they have a different account and everything is just kind of coming at them. Just resend it. It's no big deal. You can just delete them or just resend it to them. The other thing is that sometimes students with secondary students who have cell phones, they will use a lot of things on their mobile, right, on their cell phone. So they may have the mobile app. So just make sure that it's their student account and not their personal account that is on your Google Classroom. I've had a lot of that as well. You just remove that student, send it to their student email, and just kind of have a conversation with them.
And if you want to play along, this is what I do and a lot of the DIS do, is we make a practice classroom. Like this is a test classroom where I just play with things. I test stuff out. I joined it with my personal account so I can see what it looks like from a student view, because a student view is different than mine. That way I can talk the students through a problem if they're having an issue. I can see what they're seeing. The other thing I do is I get on a Google Hangout and I tell them, show me your screen. You know, they're having an issue and I'm like not sure what's going on. I do use a Google Meet to try to troubleshoot what's going on with them, and I talk them through it and have them do it. So I wanted to point this out right here, right now. Again, I don't have students in my classroom, but there is this these boxes right here to select. So you can select, and the actions right here say email or remove. So if I had like multiple people in this classroom, I can email all the people that I've checked in one fell swoop, or I could remove people. So this is how you're going to remove parents. You're going to come to the left-hand side here, select those people, go to actions, and remove. You can also change the order on this from A to Z, and there's only one person in my classroom right now.
There's a couple questions real quick, but if you don't mind. So
Sure.
a teacher would like to know if you can remove oh, I'm so sorry. If you can remove a student who is being or is not following proper behavior. I would say that you need to talk with your administrator about that. That's a code of conduct issue. And removing a student from your Google Classroom means that they will not have access to the content then. So the first thing I would do is make sure that you turn off their ability to comment. You can block certain students from being able to comment, and then make sure that you're speaking with your administrator.
You can also delete comments they've made, and they don't go away forever. Let them know that. When you're introducing those comments, let them know every teacher in this classroom can see these comments. Every student can see these comments. Nothing goes away in Google. Everything stays forever. It's really hard to get rid of stuff. So, and you know, when you look at that list of teachers, again, your administrators are teachers in your classroom. So they are also able to see what has happened.
Yes. And the other thing about Google Meet is, so basically what Google has told us is that a nicknamed classroom, a nicknamed
We haven't even got there
and
yet.
a meet, right, and a meet from the code generated from Google Classroom will not be active unless you are the teacher, the creator, are present in that classroom or in that meet. All right, so I will let you move on.
It's okay. I was thinking we're getting there. We haven't gotten there yet. So, okay. So let's see. Let me make sure I come back to this. Okay, so now that we've talked about our guardians and our stream, let's move on to Meet. So in this class, oops, sorry about that. In the class-specific settings, at the bottom is where you get to your Google Meet settings. Again, I'm going back up here and scrolling down, and here are where my Meet settings are. So at first, you have to generate a code for your Google Meet. I have already clicked that button, so it's right there. But if I click this down arrow, I can copy it, I can reset it. This will change the Google Meet code. So if you have people trying to get in or use it, you can reset it. Also, I can decide whether this Google Meet link is visible in my classroom to students. You can turn this on or off. Right now I had it off. The important thing is to come up here, any changes that you make, to save them before you leave. So let me I'll turn it on and I'll show you how students can see that. So right here is a Google Meet link. That's how your students can access it. They can access it from the stream page, or they can access it through Classwork. And so right now it's up here at the top is the Google Meet link. And that would open up Google Meet specifically for my class. And again, just like what Tara said, once you click open this Meet, and I'll just go ahead and do it. As soon as you open it from this screen, I believe students can enter. So as soon as this full screen loads, make sure you open it and join the Meet. Whether you're ready to get started or not, just join the Meet and you can turn off your camera and volume, but then you'll hear when students enter. There's a sound. Did you hear that sound that pops on every time? So you can mute yourself. Oh, I just hung up. See, we all make these mistakes. And I can rejoin as the teacher. So we had an issue today where a teacher kept getting kicked out, and it did leave the students in the classroom. So I would be aware that that is a potential issue. But the best practice is to make sure all of your students leave the classroom before you leave the classroom. Wait about 30 seconds and then close out the Meet link, and they should not be able to rejoin. So Here's mute. Here's the camera. And do people need to spend a little bit of time on Google Meet? Let me just I wasn't planning on tackling all the depths of Google Meet today, but I can if we need to.
I think at this point, let's continue on with whatever you have for the Google Classroom, and then there will be some other sessions
On Google Meet
that I believe that yes, that we can address the Google Meet needs. And there's also, of course, the badge, and you can reach out to your building DIS, and they will help you with some of those Google Meet issues.
Okay.
But at the end, if we have some time, then we can go over that.
Go to that. Okay. Are there any other questions on Google Meet, Guardian Summaries General, or the stream before I move on? Tara, can you help me out? There's a lot of comments. So the closing procedures of a Google Meet would be to make sure all of your students leave. If you need to kick them out, you should be able to kick them out under their name. There's a dash, and then wait about 30 seconds, close the Meet, and the link should be disabled. Okay, so moving on to our next slide. Another notification that drives people crazy is their calendar notifications. So every class that you are in has calendar notifications. So you can access your Google Calendar straight from your classroom by going to your Classwork, going to Calendar, and then on the left-hand side, there are check boxes to enable or disable all of those notifications. You want to clean up the calendar. It's all right here. So I can turn these on. There's not a lot of assignments on these. I don't believe they're all at midnight, the due dates. So you'll see they're down here at the bottom. You can turn them on or off. And that'll stop that pinging at the top of your screen, the pinging that happens every time you have a new calendar event. And it's amazing. Are there any other questions on settings and notifications? The calendar is your Google Calendar. It's available to you through, and I'll just open up. You can get to your calendar through your waffle. Over here, see where calendar is, right there. You can get to calendar through Google Classroom. They're all linked together as long as it's all to your school email account. And so you can close those out. You can actually delete classes too if you need to. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So the base of what you're doing should be in Classwork. Every time you want to give an assignment material, this is a place where you can actually organize stuff. Your stream, again, it's like a Facebook feed. So the newest thing is always going to be at the top. Your Classwork is a place where you can create topics, assignments, materials, questions, and quizzes. And there's some other features that allow you to reuse assignments that you've had in prior classrooms. And you can assign assignments across all of your classes all at the same time, which is just a beautiful thing. So going back to my Google Classroom, I have used a couple things here. So here is our create button. This is where we can create assignments, quizzes, questions, materials, or reuse a post or create a topic. Creating an assignment allows us to add from our Google Drive, a link, a file, YouTube, or we can create, and we can use this create button to make a blank document, slide sheet, drawing form right in this assignment. We don't have to bounce out to another place on our computer. We can do it right here from Classroom. Now let me just talk, I'm going to go back to add because there's some things to think about as you're adding to your classroom. So we were talking about earlier today I was in a session and they were talking about making a copy for each student, how students have those pieces. So if you want to have a varied ability of student access to a document, you always want to pull it from your drive. These other ways do not allow you to do things like make a copy for each student or to allow students to edit a document. So if I click from my drive, and I'm just gonna take something random that I had in my drive. I don't have anything specific right here. I wasn't planning. Let's see. Actually, I'll just take this presentation. So say I was going to insert this presentation. Now that I have this presentation here, I can decide, do I want my students to just view this file? It is a document that I'm basically printing out for them in the hands-on world. I'm printing out a document for them to look at only. If choosing students can edit a file, allows all of the students that I assign this document to edit it. So I'm sharing this document across the room. We're all writing on the piece of paper together. Making a copy for each student gives that sheet of paper to each student in the class. Everybody will get their own individual document. Matter of fact, not only will it give them each their own individual document that they can edit, but you can actually view them working on those documents in real time in your classroom, which is a beautiful thing. So once I make a copy for each student, over here on the right-hand side of my screen is where I can control which classrooms I'm going to give this document to. Right here, I can assign it to multiple classrooms just by selecting or unselecting. I can decide who. Again, I only have one student. Actually, I have no students in my classroom, but if I had multiple students, I can decide which students receive this document. I can set categories, and that's I've actually set some categories up in the grade book, so you can decide and label the type of document it is, and you can weight it in here too, but I really wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest doing that all in PowerSchool. You can assign points or not. One piece to really talk to your students about is that the grades in your Google Classroom are not your official grades. You may be taking some grades from the Google Classroom and putting them into PowerSchool, but some of the items you may not want to grade. You're not taking them for a grade, and they're not official grades in PowerSchool. So they might be different. You do not want students to think that the grade in there is their official grade. I would tell parents that as well. Okay, over here in due date, you can decide when you want it due. I know right now, trying to figure out whether a student has been in your classroom before Sunday at midnight is an issue. So if you want to, you can set it to Sunday at midnight. And then once it's set like that, if they turn in the assignment after that time frame, it'll show up as turned in late or submitted late in your classroom. And then you'll at least know whether they did it before that time frame or not. I know that was a concern for some teachers, that they worry that the student, if they set it to Sunday at midnight, that the kids will think it's really not due till midnight. But I think they can still submit things late. I just think it's a nice check for you to see whether it happened before the time frame or not. It's up to you. But again, that's about attendance only. Now, topics. Topics are a way to give your class headers for your classroom. In order to create a topic, you can click here, or I already have some made, so I would click what week I wanted this to go in and organize. Depending on your school or the way you design your class, you can set up how you organize your classroom. And let me just go out of this so you can see right now I have this classroom set up as quarter 1, week 2, starting with week 1. This is how we're organizing here at Jackson by weeks, just to keep all the materials for the same week in the same space. But you can organize however it makes sense to you. And you can edit the labels, if they're not labeled the way you like, you can rename them, delete them, copy them, move them up or down in your classroom. Moving them up or down just simply moves the whole topic area up. As you can see, that went from here to here. The other way to adjust that is by sliding them. You can slide topics, you can slide assignments, etc. If you forget to label an assignment, just pulling it down and dragging and dropping it into the topic helps your class, is available to you. All you have to do is just drag and drop. I do find that when you have a lot of assignments in your classroom, it's actually easier to go into the assignment itself. Click the assignment, click edit, and then right here I can adjust the week I want it in. And I would click save, but I'm gonna leave it there because I want to show you some other pieces that are in the assignment. Does anybody else, or is there any questions on the pieces that I just discussed?
We have a lot of comments. I don't even know where to start. I would like to say, though, that I know we spent some time on some other areas, so it is getting close to 2:50. There is a session at 3, so if you do need that downtime, that screen break, please feel free to leave. This will be recorded, and you will be able to access it anytime. But I'm willing to stay on. I don't know, Katie, what I know you have to get off soon.
I have a meeting at 3, and you know what, I did not even get through most of my presentation, but the whole presentation will be on the Canvas classroom. It sounds like we as a group need a lot of basics trainings, and you know what, that's fine. Let's get these basics down and get everybody on the same page so that we can move forward and learn some more intricate pieces. I wasn't sure with Deeper Dive how deep we were going to get. There's so much to Google Classroom.
So much, exactly. Someone had said, will the comments also be available? Unfortunately, with the way that this works on YouTube, the comments that we are posting right now that you guys are viewing are not able to be saved or viewable after the broadcast. You will be able to see everything that you are seeing on your screen except for in the player, except for those comments. You can email either Katie or I if you have specific comments regarding this presentation, but those resources will be available in the Canvas course.
Tara, you know, let me just quickly, I'm just going to quickly describe the differences between assignment, quiz, question, and materials and reuse, if that's quick. So an assignment, again, you saw the assignment and how that's posted. If you choose quiz assignment, it automatically will generate a Google form set up in a quiz format. And you can learn more about Google Forms. I think we have sessions on Google Forms, and there's also badges, but it sets it up as a quiz so that things have points and you can make right or wrong answers. And it's already just a quick place to do that. A question is something you're just asking. You can assign points or not, I believe, in a question, but it's just something quick. It's a great way to use, like as a poll, you can ask a multiple choice question or a short answer. Materials are strictly things you want your students to be able to see, but not they're not going to turn anything into you from materials.
I will say this. With material, you cannot choose make a copy for each student. So just be careful. So if there is something that you want students to have a copy of and not access as a view only access copy, then you'll need to choose between assignment or material.
Right. So material really is for things like a PDF of a document that you want everybody to have and read, but it's not really something attached to anything else. They're not going to edit it. They're not going to change it. Nothing like that. So it's really just for reference. For one of the examples that I use material for is like a website you have the kids access a lot, like a student tech website or the e-learning website on the school website. Like that is something that we've been putting in our resource materials for our class.
Idea. Yeah, or like your syllabus, things like that, or like if you have some sort of like if you're using a Google form for your daily attendance. That could be something there. Most
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And then the reuse a post is really my favorite feature right now.
Oh, yeah.
Is reuse post is a place where you can go to all the classes that you have access to or have had in the past, and you can come in and take an assignment. One thing I'm going to point out is you want to create new copies of all these attachments. So make sure this box is clicked and then click reuse. It opens it up and allows you to change. You can make any edits you need to. You can adjust the title. You can adjust your directions.
Yeah.
You can add things to it. You can change which classrooms it's assigned to. And actually in my presentation, I have some links on some tips on assigning and reusing, and because there's some quirks to it as well. But so you can click all the classes you want it to go to, adjust your due dates, etc.
I
Okay.
want to throw this in there real quick about
Yep.
reusing. If you co-plan with a teacher, like if you have a
Yep.
common class, make that sandbox course and then you reuse.
Yep. And that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. And then you guys all have like the lessons ready to go and you just click make a new copy. I mean, it's the simplest. I'm obsessed with reusing.
Reuse. And the one thing I think that you want to make sure is just double check that the files are set up the way you want students to access, because that's the one thing that I think sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, or you reused the wrong post that you wanted. And it may change the way you think about how you label your assignments, but it is the best thing ever. And yeah, we've created planning classrooms here so that our teachers can work together. Each of them can choose a topic or whatever to plan a class, and then everybody can use the same assignment. Yeah. And then they can change it into their own voice. They don't have to use our directions, but it's already there if they want to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And then I don't know about you guys, but I have like about 1 million things in my drive. So sometimes finding resources like,
oh my gosh, it's a mess, right? Yeah. Absolutely. So that one thing that I do want to stress is that you make sure that you pull copies to your own, make new copies of all the attachments. You want fresh copies. You don't want them pulling from old things.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to stop there because I've got a meeting, but I could go on and on about Google Classroom. I think I could go on for a couple hours.
Yes,
there's so much to it, and I'm sure that we will be continuing this discussion as the year goes.
Well, I will say on, Katie, thank you for joining us, but I will stay on in case there's a few more questions. So if you guys do have anything, feel free to throw that into the comments because I will stay on. Again, if you do have to get to another training, then by all means, please go get that screen-free time before the 3 o'clock session.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I'll just stay on for a couple more minutes. And if you guys have anything that you are dying to know, please, by all means, just throw it into that chat. There's a lot of things that were asked. I wasn't sure if we were able to cover everything. Okay, someone had asked about walking through the Google Meet closeout procedure. So basically what I would do is I would only be using that Google Meet that is generated from my Google Classroom. And so the students would be able, you can make it viewable and then you can turn off the viewable link. So if you're holding a live meeting, then you'll want to use that. So the students will enter into the classroom and they will get a notification. So if you're not in there yet, they will get a notification that they will not be able to join. So when it's time for that meet, they'll probably have to refresh. And then when you're holding your meet, you can just say, thank you all, I appreciate it, just like this. And they can sign off and click out. And then you just make sure that you're the only one left in the room. And then you can exit that. Now, with that code that is generated through your Google Meet, students will not be able to jump back in. They will, and I don't want to, let me see if I can find it quickly, but I do have a copy of what they see. Let me see if I can pull this over real quick. well, I can show it to you later. Let me see if I can do this real quick. But basically, if you nickname a classroom, or if you, Google Meet, you have to go into the Meet app and then nickname it, or you use the link from the, here we go, from the Google Classroom, then those students will not be able to join. So it says you can't create a meeting yourself, and it says return to the home screen or reload. And so that's what a student will see if they're trying to get back in. If you give students a link from a calendar invite, they can jump in anytime. That stays open for them. So I would only use a nicknamed classroom or the one generated from Google Classroom. Again, yes, if you're the last person in there and you are using a Meet link from your Google Classroom, or you've nicknamed a Meet and sent them the link for the nicknamed Meet, they are not supposed to be able to get back in to that Meet unless you are present. The ones from the calendar, if you create something from a calendar invite, do not work the same way. Someone asked, can you use the same code all the time? If you go to Google Meet, the app, in your waffle menu, and you access it there, then you can create a nicknamed, like it'll say to create a Meet, and you can create a nickname. I would just keep that link, that code, that Meet link that they've given you. I would just keep it somewhere, and you can keep reusing that same one. Let's see. Oh, breakout rooms. Okay, so again, Google is coming with a lot of really great improvements to Meet. They will be coming, but not until at least October is what basically Google has said to us about the breakout rooms. Yeah. Okay, if there's any other questions, let's see, maybe just give a couple minutes more. Okay, and for those of you guys who do need Google Meet, kind of a little bit more information, please reach out to your DIS. They would be excellent resources. And if you want some more kind of one-on-one time with some Google Classroom questions, or just even like workflow tips, please, by all means, reach out to your DIS. Feel free to, email. We're always available, and we will gladly help you with that. In the meantime, how do we suggest having breakout rooms? So the workaround for that is to have small groups. Now, the problem will be that you would have to only be with those small groups at scheduled times, and then leave them and go to another small group. And so this could be a nice blend. So the way I see this working is, you could have your students who are not in that small group during that Meet with you. Let's say that you have a small group working from 9 to 9:15. The rest of the students could be doing that asynchronous work, so they wouldn't show up to that Meet. And then maybe from 9:20 to 9:35, then you have another group of students jump in a Meet, right? And the other ones that were there, just like the other ones that were in the Meet, that small group, and the other students could then attend to that asynchronous work that you've assigned them, some of that self-paced work. So they could be doing those things. You could use that as a check-in, and then maybe like on Thursday or Friday, you have a whole big class Meet where you can have check-in time and work through some of those, misunderstandings, or kind of get that feedback, or talk about some of the things that they enjoyed, some of their learnings. So that could be one. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could organize your day, but that might be one idea for you. Are students still able to submit work without completing it? Of course. So like in Google Classroom, yeah, they can just click submit. They can click and mark as done, and here, I'll put that on the screen for you guys. So they can just mark it as done, and it could be a blank piece of paper or blank doc. Yep. Is SBC going to continue with more advanced features of Google Meet? Yes. So we will be getting the upgrades. Right now, we just have to wait for Google to upgrade. Let's see. If you disable the code, can students who are already invited still get in if they haven't joined already? So that I don't know. I have only disabled codes once my students have all gotten in. So what I would do, I'll show the question real quick. What I would do, Jill, I am not going to butcher your last name, even though I am. I have a Polish last name as well. I would go ahead and just see what happens, disable it, and if they need another code to join, go ahead and just join them. Okay, well, we're going to stop here. Again, thank you all for attending. If you have any remaining questions, please feel free to email, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a well-deserved weekend, restful, without a screen, preferably with a good book and maybe a hammock somewhere. Bye, everybody.